Thank God it was a back four. I couldn't have taken another week of watching a back three. I just got back from Luton Town 1, Doncaster nil. And you know what? A win is a win. And I say this after a lot of wins. It's very much a case of points on the board. Performance isn't so important because after the week we've had where the club has pretty much been tearing itself up and there've been misaligned interviews from Gary Sweet and then things that have been contradicted by Matt Bloomfield, regardless of the backing that Gary Sweet has given Matt Bloomfield, while just completely absolving himself of any blame from the footballing side, it's good to get a win on the board. And I felt Doncaster were going to give us a bit of a stiffer test, but ultimately, the fact that we played a back four kind of worked for us because you're playing. I'll start with the lineup. Why not? So it was a back four, as I was saying. It was Keeley in goal, and then a back four. So Naismith, and this is something that we actually point out in our midweek catch-up live stream that we do Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. We said we wanted a back four, and we said we don't really care who plays in the back four, providing they are defenders, and we don't want them venturing too far over the halfway line, which is what we saw today. So it was a back four, Naismith left back. Okay, he's left-footed. Check. That is a square peg in a square hole. And then next to him, he had Anderson. Well, actually, he had Mengi, who's more left-footed than Anderson on the right-hand side. And then Makosso playing right back. And Makosso was absolutely on point today. He was fantastic. Then you had Saville and Fanny sort of sitting, although Fanny did like to venture forward. And more on Fanny later. What a player. What an absolute player. Like, if we can hold on to him until January, if we can hold on to him for the season and keep him fit, hell, we have a hell of a player. And then it was sort of Zach Nelson, he was playing alongside Fanny. So sort of Saville sitting and Fanny as the double pivot. And I felt from today, Nelson, he should have always been about 10 yards further forward than he always was when he was attacking. I feel he's still a bit nervous about making a mistake in front of so many fans. And then Ali on the left, Morris on the right, Naki Wells playing up top. In the first half, I felt when we were attacking, we were all right. But I do feel it was definitely a performance where defense prevailed. And other than the odd occasion where we couldn't find our passes or when Naismith went for the Hollywood ball rather than the basic ball, it was a serviceable performance. It really was. Now, I'm not going to the other side and saying we're gonna storm the league. Look, it's a start. It's Doncaster, and what we've seen so far from this season is we have beaten the teams that are amongst the worst in the division, and we struggle when we play the teams who are sort of going to be up and amongst it come the end of the season. But with this game, I feel Shaden Morris, you can see exactly why Aberdeen fans have said he is solely an impact sub, because it is very much a case of he was absolutely gassed. Like when I'm surprised they didn't switch him over at half time. Like when he had the ball, he was absolutely electric, and pretty much every single bit of good play that we had came via Shaden Morris, which makes a change because normally it's all via Ali. It's a very one-dimensional way of attacking. There was a good chance where Ali crossed it in, and or maybe it was Naismith that crossed it in. But Fanny made a tremendous box-to-box run and ended up... it didn't fall very nicely for him. He sort of had to lift his leg and try and cushion it into the goalkeeper. If it fallen a little bit better, maybe he could have put his foot through it, and it would have been 1-0 right there and then. Chances... few and far between, but ultimately I never felt until like the last knockings of the game in the second half, like last 10 minutes, that we were really under any true threat. And I wasn't too worried. I felt defensively, Makosso at right back, absolutely perfect. Essentially, it's sort of like playing a back three, but essentially with a back four, everyone knows where they have to be. You look along the line, you see three people next to you on your left. If you're Makosso, Naismith, you look to your left, you look to your right. You need to learn my left and right. You look and you see everyone there. Yep, all lined up. Perfect. Mads Anderson, I feel, he's going to keep growing into the season. One hopes. But he's a very slow player, but it certainly helps having Ted and Mengi next to him so you have that pace. And perhaps we'll see Nigel Longwick come back and he will fit into that back four, potentially. And maybe Makosso comes in and replaces either Anderson or Mengi. I don't know. But remember, like, Anderson was playing Premier League football for us, but we did sign him from a League One side, even though he had a stellar season in League One. Considering the pedigree that Anderson came to us with from League One, and now that we are in League One, honestly, I would have preferred to have Matt Pearson playing in our back line today. It was good to see Matt Pearson back. It really was. I think our fans really treated him with a lot of respect come the end of the game. Probably the loudest that the fans sang all game. One of the points that Gary made in his in his 2-part interview, and he does say fans need to be better, but hey, it cuts both ways, because ultimately the fans, and I brought a friend today who came to the game with me, and he's been to Kenilworth Road a couple of times over the years, quite a few games, and I likened it to going to see a play. As fans, we are paying to go see Luton Town play, and if we were going to see a play in a theatre, you would be kind of disappointed if all the actors didn't know their lines, didn't look like they wanted to be there, and ultimately just gave you an absolutely terrible show. So there, it cuts both ways. The fans react to what they see on the pitch, because after all, football is entertainment. For these guys, it's a job. You just expect these people to do their jobs, the bare minimum, want to be there, want to put the effort in, because ultimately they are paid to be putting the effort in. And that is essentially the starting point of what I hope we saw today. The defense doing their jobs, the defense wanting to actually battle for the ball, the midfield winning those second balls. Sure, there are things that need to be fine-tuned. For instance, I feel our attack really didn't cover themselves in too much glory, with the exception of Shaden Morris. I think Bode, when he came on, he was absolutely excellent. I'm jumping all over the place. Just bear with me. Bode came on, holds up the ball well, wins his flick-ons, and I think he is going to be a very, very handy player. In fact, I feel he held the ball up far better than Naki Wells. I don't know what Nordas has done to not be starting. Honestly, I would have started with Nordas because I feel he probably would have been a bit more of an aerial battler against Matt Pearson and Doncaster's weird clone of Matt Pearson, who was somehow taller than Matt Pearson. That was weird, but we tended to go long and beyond them, and hoping that they would win their knock-ons, but actually knock it back beyond, and Naki Wells kept running beyond. But to be honest, Wells didn't really show me anything that convinces me that he is starting material. I guess it's a case of just treading water until Ali Al-Hamadi is up to speed. So the first goal, it's another goal from not open play. This is a big part of what I mentioned about the attack not really clicking just yet. Like Shaden Morris and Ali, they're both flash balls across the face of goal. Even Naismith, when he got into sort of that half space outside the box, but he was whipping in crosses from deep, which is kind of what you want. And that is why you'd play Naismith as a left back, because he has that wonderful left foot where he can send in a deep cross. And sometimes that can cause more problems than getting to the byline and sending a ball across, because you've got more, especially if you have enough whip on the ball, you can visualize it and you can sort of time your run a bit better, rather than a ball just being flashed like jom straight across the face, like from where the corner flag is. It adds extra dimensions to our attack. However, we need people that can attack it. Nahki Wells, being 5'8", up against Matty Pearson and his weird clone that's taller than Matty Pearson, was never going to win the balls in the air. When Bode came on, Bode was winning balls left, right and centre. He even managed to hold the ball in the corner for a bit, like come the last knockings of the game. I feel Nordas probably would have offered more in the first half. I don't know how he is with penalties. Look, I'm not going to slag off Nahki Wells for missing the penalty. I felt, I've watched it back, I felt it was a good penalty. I think the keeper did incredibly well to get across. Normally when it's sort of towards the centre of the goal, that is when you can slag off a player for missing a penalty. It was hard. It was a good height. Okay. It was a good height. It wasn't like top bins or drilled low. It was a good height, but it was hit with power. And the goalkeeper, he decided where he was going to go and he went hard. Like, I'm not getting into the psychology of whether Nahki Wells was like staring at the point where he was going to hit the ball. But yeah, as long as he can sort of pick himself back up and go again, and it doesn't damage his mentality, because all we need is more damaged mentalities going around Kenilworth Road, really. We need people with their head in the game, wanting to win their second balls, their knock-ons, their aerials. We want to see more of that. Speaking of what I want to see more of, I want to see more of Lamine Fanny. The runs from the middle of the park. There was one moment when the crowd absolutely lost it because he nutmegged a player. Sure, it didn't really come to anything, but he tries things. He gets people off their seats. Same with Shaden Morris, the way he will take a ball and pretty much out of nowhere, he'll carve out a chance. That is a big part of this back four formation as well. Because when you have Naismith and Makosso sitting behind Ali and Shaden Morris, the defensive work is done for them. Because Shaden Morris, Gideon Kajua, Ali, they are not defenders. They have probably been raised throughout their entire footballing life without the ability to defend. Without the ability to defend. Without that sort of innate ability. Like some players, when you're younger, I play football to a relative level, not anything special, but you gravitate towards defending and keeping the ball out of your net and putting the ball in a net. And there are some players that do that and some players that do the former. So playing players who have pretty much only ever attacked a goal in their footballing lives, and these are young lads we're talking about as well, and forcing them to defend something that they are innately not good at, it's never going to go well. And that is why we concede a lot of goals from crosses, from defensive errors, because these players, they sort of slot in, they don't really know what they're meant to do, and then carnage ensues and the ball ends up in the goal. So now you have that safety net behind them. Two banks of four, well, a 4 and a 5 when you're defending, and it just works better. It makes logical sense. And I don't want to see a back three again. If we can play defenders who have their right feet playing on the right sides, that is A-OK with me. I am absolutely delighted with that. And long may it continue. Look, we're going up to Blackpool next. It's one of those that's sort of been sandwiched into the middle of the footballing calendar now. It's not great, like a long trip to pretty much the other end of the country. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. And hopefully we learn from our mistakes and we don't cancel the next game because of international break. We should just play it without George Saville and let's see what happens. Saville and Wells and Nakamba, I feel, providing he can get some players back from injury, then it's not the end of the world. We can continue before the inevitable fixture pile up and make sure we don't lose momentum, because I feel that Lincoln game was probably a culmination. The Lincoln and the Plymouth game before that was a culmination of that loss of momentum. And you need momentum when it comes to attacking play as well, because right now we need all the games to come as thick and fast as possible, because we need our forwards firing. We need our forwards firing from open play. I realise I haven't talked too much about the game. Just picked out some players that really impressed me. Mokoso, I liked the fact that he wasn't going for the overlap, he was going for the underlap. I feel when you go for the overlap, it really does open up that space in the defense, and it's something that can get exploited. Yes, it did get exploited towards the end of the game, last 10 minutes. Fortunately, it fell to the one player that you wanted to. It was their number 30. I'm not 100% sure of his name. He had a very heavy touch, like he was wearing lead boots. One of them went straight to Keeley when he tried to control it. Wonderful, delighted about that, because that could have been a very dangerous chance when they got behind us. Another one, their number 7, he had a go and it just went the wrong side of the post. And that would have been very concerning. And also, I think Doncaster probably didn't really deserve much from there. Player of the match for me was the referee. I love how he took absolutely no shit during the game. So much so, he was really super anal about where people were taking throw-ins from. It was absolutely tremendous. I've never seen that from a referee before. Essentially, if a player moved an inch with the ball when they were getting ready to take the throw-in, he was like, no, back, don't you dare move or I'll kneecap you. It was tremendous. He took none of that, and he let the game flow really nicely. Fair play to him. No, but seriously, my man of the match would be Fanny. We need to see more of him. We need to keep him fit, and hopefully we can keep him beyond January. Although I feel if he can keep turning in performances like that, I don't think we will keep him beyond January. I think people will come in and hopefully we can maybe turn a profit on him and invest that money into the playing squads. And hopefully by then, Matt Bloomfield and Gary Sweets and the recruitment team will have their story straight and will know who's meant to be recruiting, and Matt Bloomfield will communicate to the recruitment team who he wants, so we can actually get some fullbacks in and maybe another midfielder to replace Fanny if he were to go. We need more. I think we need more players. There are still some players to return, but I feel that there's. I like Zach Nelson. I love the fact that we have an academy product playing in our team. I like to see Zach Nelson. I like to see Jake Richards maybe get a go in that area, because I feel Zach Nelson potentially just has the fear. Maybe we take him out the firing line for now, let him play his football from the bench. Jake Richards, he didn't really get a chance to shine when he came on, but he looked bright. He was running around looking for the ball like Bode. Bode really didn't shirk his responsibilities. He really went for it full-blooded. Right, but as a reminder, we have the fan phone in Sunday night, 9 p.m. We want to see you there. We want to hear from you. Please get in touch. And we also have the midweek catch up, which is 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. And I'll also make videos whenever new Luton Town news drops. Everyone, have a great weekend. Have a great Sunday or Saturday evening or Sunday early morning, whenever you're watching this. And most importantly, come on you, 3 points, clean sheet, Hatters.